So now you know what Couple Talk is about, and this session is about trading places. And I need a volunteer couple to get us started. Okay, Adam and Sarah, come forward please, and I'm going to have Adam come here, you stay right here, and I'm going to ask you, Adam, to turn and walk kind of closely over here to the screen. You got to put your face right up about there, great. Sarah, you're going to stand almost in the same spot, but you're going to turn your back and face this way, okay? Good. Now, Adam, this is your world, okay? What you see here is your world. So I would like you to tell me what your world is like. So just describe what you see. So say the world is, and name what you see.
The world is a wall.
The world is a wall, okay? You got a wall in your world. Great. Sarah? This is your world. Mm-hmm. Okay, and these things in it are all in your world. Mm-hmm. And I would like you to tell me about your world. What do you see in your world? The world is, what does it happen? Open.
A lot of happy, loving couples.
Oh, okay, happy, loving couples. Just a second. Adam, do you have any happy, loving couples in your world?
No.
I didn't hear any. It sounded like you had a wall in your world. That was just about it, huh?
Just it.
That's about it. Well, now what's wrong with your wife here? You're standing in the same spot. She says she sees happy, loving couples. What is she thinking?
I don't know what she's thinking.
Yeah, let me find out a little more about her world. Okay, tell me what else is in your world? What do you see?
I see nice furniture.
Nice furniture in your world. Now wait a second. He's telling me there's just a wall in the world. You're standing on the same spot. What is he thinking?
I think he's blind.
You think he might be a little blind. He does not see the happy couples. He doesn't see the nice furniture. It's a little bit sad, his world, isn't it? Okay. Well, now what I would like you to do is just take a step forward. Okay. And Adam, go ahead and turn around and look over Sarah's shoulder. So just position yourself to look over her shoulder. Now tell me what you see in Sarah's world.
I see a lot of happy people.
A lot of happy people and
See a lot of furniture.
A nice furniture. Aha. A very nice world here, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're seeing Sarah's world. Now I'd like you both to turn and face Adam's single color wall world and confirm. Is this what Adam's world is like?
Yes, I see the wall.
You see the wall, right. So it turns out, let me have you turn this way, both of you, and face the other way and look over her shoulder. Turns out that it was just a matter of kind of taking turns and trading places to kind of look over each other's shoulder and see that the worlds you were seeing both existed, but it was just from a different perspective, wasn't it? Right. So this stance represents the core of Couple Talk. It's not just learning about speaking and listening. It's looking over your partner's shoulder to see the world as they see it. And the standing in one spot can represent like a conflict issue. And don't we often feel like, you know, how can this person see this issue so differently? What are they thinking? But what we really want is to be understood and have our perspective understood. And our partner wants that too. And that's what trading places is about. Understanding each other's perspective from the inside. Taking turns doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As some of you were watching that, you might have been thinking, oh, that'll be really exciting. I can't wait to trade places with my partner. And it might be that Carissa and Andy are thinking about that. They're engaged, and it's exciting to think about getting to know each other better. And that's a really beautiful time in marriage. There are other times, though, where you might be in a phase where to even think about looking over your partner's shoulder is a little bit difficult. Maybe there's been some distance, some hurt feelings over time, and even just getting close enough to look over your partner's shoulder doesn't seem very possible. And we acknowledge that. That's common to all couples to go through phases like that. We've been through phases like that. And so we're asking you to temporarily set aside the unresolved issues, to try to set aside those hurts or those negative feelings, and do these exercises in this first part to the best of your ability. And later, when we get to cracking the code to handling conflict, we will be discussing those kinds of issues, the problems, the past hurts.
Trading places is not just seeing from your partner's perspective and acknowledging it. It's getting into their shoes, getting into their heart, feeling what they feel. It's called empathy.
So if you think about a time in your life when you felt really understood, maybe you had a conversation with someone, maybe as a child or recently, and you felt really understood by them. How did that make you feel?
Validated.
Validated. Yeah, and research shows when somebody tries to understand you, you feel validated, important, accepted. People use these kinds of words. Those are some of the feelings. And what about the effect of on your relationship with someone who tried to understand you? You probably felt closer to them and more willing to work with them.
In your workbook, empathy is defined as putting yourself in another person's shoes or heart and identifying with the other person so much that you momentarily take on his or her thoughts, feelings, concerns, and desires.
And recent research on empathy has shown many interesting things. First, empathy does begin with the parent-child bonding, so it helps you attach. And brain research shows that when someone has a feeling and they're talking about their feelings or their experience, and another person is listening and trying to understand it, and they start kind of feeling those feelings that the person has, the brain, the neurons in the brain end up mirroring what the neurons in the feeling person's brain is doing. And we kind of end up taking on temporarily that feeling. And that's what we mean by that definition of empathy, as identifying with your partner so much that you actually momentarily take on those thoughts, those feelings, those concerns, and those desires. And research shows that people who have more empathy have better relationships. And the good news is it can be taught. Empathy is a skill. You can learn it, you can get good at it, and you can use it to understand each other better.
There's a scripture that relates to empathy in Romans. Be happy with those who are happy, and weep with those who weep. Now the scripture's not telling us that we have to act like we're happy, or we have to cry fake tears if we're with somebody who's crying, who's upset. The scripture wants us to genuinely connect and feel those feelings with the other. That's empathy. We want to lead you in an exercise now to allow you to experience empathy yourselves. This exercise is called the childhood memory. We want each person to think of an event that happened to you as a child. Could be pleasant, could be unpleasant, but an experience that has emotion and meaning to you. Something with emotional impact. Then you'll tell your partner this story. I'd like to ask for a volunteer to come and be up front with me and tell me your childhood story. And while he or she is telling me their story, I will trade places. I'll put myself in his or her place, and I'll try to understand from the inside. Thank you, Callie, for volunteering. Callie and I are sitting facing each other, knees almost touching, knee to knee, and that helps me to give my best attention. My body's positioned to where I can really listen my best to her. So I'm going to ask you to tell me your childhood story, and then I'm going to tell it back to you. We'll trade places, and I will tell it back to you as though I'm you.
Okay.
So go ahead and tell me your childhood story.
Okay. Well, basically, growing up, I always knew my parents would get a divorce. They would always fight, especially in front of me. I never saw them reconcile. I also never saw them love on one another or tell each other that they loved each other. And my senior year in high school, my mom slept in a completely different room in the house my entire senior year of high school. So they never actually told me that they were staying together because of me, but it was obvious that's what they were doing. So when they told me they were getting a divorce, it was not really that shocking or surprising. What was weird is kind of how it played out and how they went about it.
Now I'd like to trade places with you and retell your story up to that point. So let's trade places. So as Callie, all my years growing up, my mother and dad fought. I remember them fighting all the time. I don't ever remember them saying positive things to them. My memories of my mom and dad's relationship is just friction and conflict and hostility. And I don't have memories of them saying sweet, good things to them. And even when I was a senior in high school, they stopped sleeping in the same room. They actually slept in separate bedrooms. So my memory of my parents was filled with discord and friction. And when they told me that they were getting a divorce, it didn't surprise me at all. I kind of knew somehow deep down that they were staying together because of me, keeping the family together because I was still at home. But when I was a senior in high school and close to leaving, that's when they told me that they were going to divorce. Mm-hmm. And it didn't surprise me at all. Now, did I get that right? And if not, please give me a correction. And if there's more that you'd like to say, you can go ahead and say more.
Okay. Yeah, that was correct. Actually, it made me really sad when you were saying that because, yeah, you used more words to describe it. There is more, actually. It goes a little deeper because actually how they told me they were getting a divorce, I think, really affected me. About 1 week before I graduated high school, they took me out to dinner, and after we ordered our food and we started eating, in the middle of it, they just said, you know, Callie, we love you so much, and this isn't your fault, but we're getting a divorce. And I just nodded my head and said, okay, and then we all kept eating, and that was the end of it. Mm-hmm.
So, as Callie, just retelling this story today and hearing you tell it back to me kind of brings back some of those sad feelings about it in a little bit of a fresh way. Mm-hmm. And what was really unusual about the way the divorce was told to me and kind of what affected me is we were about a week out from my graduation and we were out to eat. My mom and dad said, let's go out to eat. And we had ordered our food, and as I remember it, the food had come, and we're in the middle of eating, and they said, well, Callie, it's not your fault, but we're getting a divorce. And I was so stunned, even though I knew that their relationship was bad, and it wasn't like completely out of the blue, just hearing it and knowing it was kind of a shock to me. And I was so much stunned that I kind of didn't even know how to react or what to do. And I didn't say anything. I just kind of nodded my head and we went on with our eating.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. If you have any other correction or more that you'd like to say?
No, that's good.
Okay, good. As I was telling you that, did you feel understood?
Yeah, I did.
It was a little unusual, you know, as me saying that I was Callie.
Yeah.
How did that feel for you, to hear me saying that I was you and actually trading places with you?
It makes me feel kind of understood, and but it also makes the situation a little bit more real.
You felt understood,
Yeah.
and it kind of brought it back to you again in a way that was even more real than when you were
Yeah, it
telling
sounds
it.
more sad when you're saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else about this exercise that you'd like to share?
Well, I feel like I have a more intimate relationship with you now.
That's true. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shared something very personal with me, and that does create a closeness, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, thank you for volunteering, and we appreciate it very much.
Okay.
So now I want to ask the group, what did you notice that I did with Callie? Carissa?
I think you did a good job at touching into emotions that she didn't even realize she felt. Like she said she had realized or knew that her parents were going to get divorced, and so she wasn't really surprised, but at the same time it was kind of a shock just hearing it.
Right.
So you
right.
saying that kind of touched in on that, I think.
Yeah. What I did there was what we call reading between the lines. And it's not where I guess at what she's feeling. I only say something that I'm sure that she is feeling, but it's okay for me as I connect with Callie's experience to go ahead and share a little more deeply about what that experience was as I'm empathizing with her, even if she doesn't say it. Yeah. Other comments?
I think something else that's really important, just in the whole situation, is the fact that you were sitting like in a way that you're looking straight at her and you're making eye contact. And you made eye contact the entire time when she was telling the story and when you retold the story.
Right.
Just that you were engaged with her.
Right. I did. Yeah, and that's an important part of it. That body language matters. If Alex is going to tell me a story, something important that she wants to talk to me about, and I got the game on over here and the remote in my hand, yeah, you know what? She's not going to get everything from me. She may not get very much at all.
Right.
Yeah. Any other observations from that demonstration?
Tia.
I thought it was very important that you made a breaking point so that because you know your limit of your memory and what you're going to be able to remember as far as the details. So it's good for you to say, okay, let me recap from this point, and then you can add more later.
Yeah. It's not a test. It's not a memory test. It's connecting. It's trading places so that I can be Callie. I can be the senior year Callie for that short period of time as I'm connecting with her story. Yeah. And she mentioned something that I'd like to affirm. She feels closer to me now. Yeah. She told me a personal story, and I listened attentively, and I told it back to her in a way that showed her that I was not just hearing the words, but I was feeling what it was that she was feeling. And that brings us close. That's the magic of empathy. Well, the good news is, now it's your turn.
In your workbook are a list of events that are common in childhood. And maybe one of these will resonate with you as you're thinking about your own topic. A loss of a pet. Maybe there was a move when you were a child or to a new school. Perhaps rejection by the opposite sex or by friends. A sports experience. An experience that happened at church or Sunday school. A holiday experience. So perhaps something on that list prompts a memory for you.
We'll give you a little time to choose. Take a few moments.
On your own, choose your topic.
Does everyone have a story? Good.
Let's turn to the instructions in the workbook. And what you are going to do is you're going to tell your story, your childhood story of the event that happened to your partner. And we want you to briefly describe what happened. So try not to spend all of your time telling details and facts, because what we want you to focus on is the feelings. So in the workbook, what we have is a list of some common feelings that might be helpful to prompt you, like maybe it was a feeling that caused some happiness, or you were excited or sad or scared or disappointed. And a prompt that's helpful for you to use to help you remember to name some feelings is, when that happened, I felt. And then just kind of let yourself sit there for a little bit and think about what was the feeling going on there. So that'll be helpful as you're doing this exercise. And your partner will be listening to you, and then they will ask to trade places. Now, again, they may choose to ask and after a certain point of time when their memory kind of has reached its limit. So you'll one time trade places, you will switch chairs, and then that will help you become your partner. And you will then become your partner and start with the prompt that we have in the workbook, which is, as partner's name, when I was, and you could say the age or the time of phase of life, or if it was in high school or junior high, I remember, and then retell the story as if you were your partner. And if your partner adds anything or changes anything, remember that's a gift. So they will be helping you learn more deeply about their experience. And so be open to those corrections and additions. And then when one of you is finished, you'll go ahead and the other partner, it'll be their turn to tell their childhood story. And if by chance you happen to be finished by the time is up, go ahead and start telling, one of you choose to start telling another childhood story.
Okay, so we're going to ask you to turn your chairs knee to knee so you're facing each other like you saw Callie do with me. You'll have a countdown clock for this exercise. The countdown clock will signal at the halfway point. So you'll know when we're about halfway done. You want to be sure that you switch roles around then so both people get a turn to tell their story. There will also be a signal when there's 1 minute left. So you'll know when we're close to the end. And as we approach the end, the music will increase in volume to let you know that it's time to come back together as a group. Okay? Ready? Go.
All right, let's take a moment to practice what we've learned.
Turn and face each other so you're knee to knee.
Go to the page numbers shown on the screen and begin the exercise.
You're halfway done. If you haven't done so already, it's time to switch roles.
This is the final minute, so begin wrapping it up. Turn back to the video. Don and Alex are getting ready to start.
Go ahead and look in your workbook. There are a list of typical responses we've gotten from a number of couples, and you'll see it really ranges, because the good news is there's no right or wrong answers to this exercise. What happened to you, how you felt about it, is what's true for you.
So the left side is when you listened and retold your partner's story. I'll read the responses, and you can mark any that are true for you. It was hard work. I wished I could ask questions or comment. I felt closer to my partner. It felt awkward and silly. My mind wandered as I listened. I felt like I was having the experience. I want to hear more stories. Or you might have a different response that you'd like to write in there in those lines. And then on your own, read the right-hand side, which are possible responses for when you told your own story. We'll give you a minute to finish filling that out in your workbook.
Now take a moment to yourself and fill in the debrief section in your workbook.
Okay. Next, we'd like to hear what your experience was, so we'll share as a group a bit. What was that exercise like for you?
From my standpoint, it was a little different because it was a story I'd heard before. But what it ended up doing, it kind of, I've heard it before, so before I was like, oh, I understand that story, I get it. But switching the roles helped me to see her, like even now, like how she would react in that situation, and putting myself in her shoes of how, like what emotions were going on, and like being in that home and like just seeing the setting around me. It's kind of like in that virtual realm, like kind of putting yourself in that situation gives it another like depth and understanding to what the situation, even though I'd heard it before.
We often hear that with this exercise. People report that it was a story they'd heard before, but it hit them in a way that they had never experienced. They understood it in a way they had never understood it. Yeah.
Now, did anybody wish that they could ask questions as they were, Carissa, you?
Yeah, I like to ask questions. I got that from my mom. It was hard.
What did you do about that?
I kept my mouth shut.
Nice, nice.
I laughed if the story was funny, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Right, so that's what, I know it can be difficult. It can be difficult because you have this important question you feel like you might want to ask right then because it's going to help you understand more. But your partner's the expert on that childhood memory, and they're leading you through it. And so by just being quiet, he may have ended up being able to go places where you wouldn't have gone because you were going to direct him somewhere else with a question. So that's why we ask you to just listen and not direct your partner. Let them tell their story. So that's great.
Yeah, it takes work. Yeah, some of us are more talkative than others, and it's difficult for us to squelch that part of us that wants to ask questions and kind of, wait, what about this, what about this? And we're not saying don't ask questions. We're saying when you're in that role of giving empathy to your partner, when you're trading places, don't ask questions during that time. When you heard your story retold, how did that feel to you? What was that like for you?
I felt kind of similar to when she was sharing her story with you, that it brought a lot more clarity to the reality to the story. So you were able to step out and actually see what was happening outside of your own perspective and where your mind was at the time. And so yeah, I felt like it really brought the weight of the actual situation to light.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's your story.
Yeah.
But you gained self-understanding by seeing it kind of from the outside as she was telling you your story. We hear that often. It's really an incredible tool to help us know ourselves better. Yeah, and that sounds like what happened to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jennifer.
This might be a little bit of a different perspective, but when I was telling my story and he was retelling it, like instead of getting frustrated that he was missing like major parts of it. Like I was cheering him on. I felt like I was just like, come on, like let's do it. Like you can do it. And so that's cool because that's different than being frustrated that why aren't you getting it?
Yeah.
That you want them to get it.
It's sweet that you saw it that way. And I'll remind the group that these are skills that are developed. They're like muscles. So as you do them, your muscles are going to build and it's going to become better. And that's how it is. Keep working those muscles.
Now what we'd like to do is give you just a few moments to turn to your partner and talk to your partner about what it was like for you. So we've had a chance to share in the large group, but we'd like you to do that. So just, you don't have to turn knee to knee, but just share with each other what you wrote in your workbook and what you thought about this exercise and felt about it.
Go.
Turn and talk to your partner about how this exercise was for you.
So we're on our way to cracking the code to a deeper connection. We're off to a good start, in fact.
So turn in your workbook, and what we'd like you to do is think about some of these points that we've learned about empathy and what we did here. So a couple of points we want to make is that trading places is becoming your partner and understanding them from the inside. So it's not just about listening and parroting back facts and things like that. It's understanding them from the inside. And the second point that we do want to make is that when you trade places with your partner, it really helps you set yourself aside and prioritize your spouse, right?
Now, we're not interested in only having you do an exercise here. We're interested in what happens after you walk out and you go back to your lives. When you have the job and the kids and the bills to pay and in-laws and busy stuff, all of that.
Right. So in your workbook, we have a place where we talk about cracking the code in everyday life. What we're asking you to do is think about trading places, now that you're going to be leaving here, and trading places with your partner, and start to notice the feelings maybe that they're feeling. So as you think about what's going on inside of your partner, try to put yourself in their place and ask yourself, is my husband feeling sad right now? I'm noticing some things. Or is there something that they seem to be happy about? They seem more lighthearted right now. And when you notice that, join them. Join them by responding to them in the way that would help them or support them. So if your partner is feeling sad, what is it that they might want? Maybe just kind of stay close by. Maybe that's all they need. If they're feeling overwhelmed, do you know maybe what your partner might want? Would they want you to say, hey, let me help you out here. I know if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I have a little bit, Don knows me well enough to know what I might want. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, what?
I got to get away.
Yeah.
I got to stay
get out of the
hair.
way.
Yeah.
I get out of the path. I got to get right over there and you're in my way. Right. So you get to know your partner. When they're feeling certain feelings, find out what is it that they would want from you in terms of response. So that's the way to crack the code in everyday life in terms of using this trading places.
We've got an exercise now that we love ending our sessions with. We call it partner appreciations. So you'll tell your partner something you appreciate, and after that's been done, your partner cannot just say thanks, that's nice, felt good. No. Your partner will summarize back to you what was just said to them, that appreciation, such as, you appreciate that I do such and such.
Right, and that gives you kind of a double dose of appreciation. You hear it from your partner, and then, as you're summarizing it back, that helps you internalize it more. Your partner gave you an appreciation. Take it in and feel good about that. And we all need that, especially from our partners.
Go ahead and turn your chairs so that you're facing each other knee to knee, and we want you each to give that appreciation to each other. Go.
Get knee to knee with each other and start the exercise.
You're halfway done. If you haven't already done so, it's time to switch roles.
Turn back to the video. It's time to start again.
Okay, I got to bring you back together. We're going to wrap up.
Well, we are really looking forward to our next session, which is listening fully.
Where we will keep on cracking the code to a deeper connection.